And welcome to Habs Unfiltered, episode 219. I'm your host, Blaine Pudvey, and I'm joined now by my co-hosts, Matt Smith.
Good evening.
And Treg Wilson.
Hello.
Happy New Year. Welcome to 2022 to all our listeners. And it is great to be here with both of you guys to kick off the new year.
Happy to be here. Finally nice to have the three of us together for a show.
Yeah. I took a little sabbatical over the holidays just to, rest and relax. And it's good to be all back together.
Yeah, it's been, we took a little bit of a week off there for our listeners who were looking for new shows. We didn't have anything for the last week, but we're here now and we are ready to roll. So it's 2022. Just for those of you who listen to us that might be about our vintage, not Matt's, I'm talking about Treg's and myself. These songs are now 30 years old. So if you're an 80s and 90s kid, you're going to love this. Under the Bridge by Red Hot Chili Peppers and Friday I'm in Love by The Cure turned 30 this year.
Wasn't a big Cure fan.
I think the first time I heard my brother's voice crack, he was singing Under the Bridge. To be honest.
Was he trying to hit the high notes there in the chorus there?
I know that he still can't sing Other Side. It's fucking brutal, right?
Just be glad he wasn't trying to be Flea and running around the house naked, shaking his junk at you.
Or wearing a sock on his junk while he runs around.
If he's polite.
Yeah. If you're listening, Marty, it's a toe sock.
Why is it so crunchy?
Yeah.
All right. So we'll just dive right into it. There is quite a bit of news despite everything being kind of paused at the moment. So the Canadiens extended their pause this morning. As we record, it's Wednesday, the 6th of January. Today was supposed to be the end of the Canadiens COVID pause, but they extended it to the 8th of January, which means if it were to be lifted on the 8th, they will practice on the Sunday coming. So fingers crossed, especially considering they have a game on Wednesday against the Bruins, which was supposed to be a home game. They just moved it to Boston so they can get fans. Currently, the Canadiens have 16 out on the COVID list and about 23 players altogether injured or on the COVID protocol list.
That's insane.
I'm pretty sure you're only allowed 23 players on a roster.
Yeah. Team COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's insane. Yeah. Like we've talked about all year the amount of injuries that this team has had, and then it's play on. Now it's a whole other thing, and now it's with the COVID and everything like that, and the players being put on protocol, and it's still the same thing, play on. And now some of those players are on the list, like Cam Hillis, who started the year in Trois-Rivières, is now on the COVID list after playing a couple games with the Canadiens, or playing one game with the Canadiens.
Well, what it does make sense to me is they're canceling other games with only 3 or 4 people on the team with COVID.
That's right.
And then Montreal has 16 players,
Yeah,
literally in COVID protocol. They have both Allen and Montembeault are in COVID.
Yeah.
Primo's in COVID.
Yeah, and if
if they play and they're not back, you're playing McNevin.
If you're Michael McNevin, you're still probably not going to play.
They'll probably play They'll probably play Kevin Poulin.
Yeah. That's not a knock on McNevin. We think he's a fantastic goalie, but this organization doesn't seem to think as highly of him as we do.
Well, maybe his remarks at the first of the season had something to do with it.
Well, very well. Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. So, I mean, they played in Florida. They were told, hey, just get this game done and then you can go on your break.
Yeah.
They were already down there. They already had the Trois-Rivières Canadiens Lyon already dressed and ready to go. I mean, it's pretty impressive. Hill is being called up from the ECHL, and then he is lined up against one of the premier two-way centers in the league in Barkov, and he won a few of the faceoffs. So good for him.
You know what? It's good exposure for these young guys. It's just that you like to see them mixed in with NHL caliber players to see what they can bring when they are called up. And right now it's an AHL line. So yes, you're seeing what they're bringing, but you're not seeing them matched up against the third and fourth lines. You're seeing them matched up against the top 6 of some of the better teams in the league. You know, the last 3 games they played, those are 3 of the best teams in the league points wise right now.
And they almost beat Tampa. Well, they should have beat Tampa.
And they should have beat Tampa. Exactly.
Yeah. But you got to look at the players in a microcosm. You're watching them in their individual play, seeing how they react, how they adjust. You know that in some cases they're just not going to be good enough because sometimes it's a third line AHLer with very little experience going up against someone like a Stamkos. You just know they're going to, so you got to watch what they're doing. So, but at the same time, this gives Gorton an amazing opportunity to basically assess the entirety of the Canadian system.
Yep.
Because they pretty much played everybody except for the CHL call-ups.
Yeah, which there's if the games continue to play, like as we're recording tonight, I believe they were supposed to play the Leafs.
Yeah.
And it was getting very, very, very close that we might have seen a Jan Mysak brought up or a Goulet or something like that.
And if you follow cap-friendly transactions, you'll note that prior to the Florida game, Goulet and Mysak were both brought up onto the emergency call list. It was a paper transaction because they didn't actually fly down, but they were still there just on the off chance.
Yeah.
You mentioned Gorton there and how he can assess his players and what he has in the system, but I don't understand. He can't really assess the team. That's what he's going to have it hard to shoot.
Yeah.
Like they're going to come into a season near the end where they're going to have to be like, are we rebuilding or are we retooling or what are we doing here? How far away are we from being where we need to be? Do we need a full rebuild and say, fuck it, we'll start from scratch, let's go? Or do we just need to change the way the defense is a little bit and then add a player here or there? It's hard to assess that when from day one, you kind of really haven't had your actual team.
It's been like that the entire season. Bergevin
that's
never
what
had
I'm
the
saying.
Entire team, right?
So how can he assess what he needs to do in the offseason? I mean, I personally think a rebuild's on the table, but
that could be a show in itself. I think
that's true. That's true.
I think we can add that with a GM search show. But we'll go back to the news around the team. So we talked about the pause. Logan Mayu has been reinstated as of January 1st. He is back on the active roster for the London Knights. According to the OHL and its health professionals, he has met all the requirements that the league in the OHL has placed for him to be able to play again. So he's supposed to play on the 7th of January with London. So now it kind of comes down to everything that this kid did, all the illegal activity, the criminality that he has to put that behind him now and prove he is worthy of a second chance.
Yeah. And that's just not on the ice either. He's got to continue down the path that he's been going, that obviously made it apparent to the OHL committees and the CHL that he's ready to take that next step and be reinstated. He can score a hat trick a game if he wants to. It's not going to matter if he continues, if he gets back into the path that got him into this trouble to begin with.
Well, he has to do both. He has to play well on the ice and he has to prove himself off the ice if he wants to have any hope at all of signing a contract. And no, the Canadiens will not be renouncing that pick because you're just basically, you're making the matters worse.
Yeah.
Because they bought into this whole, we're going to rehabilitate him. And if you just renounce the pick now, you're basically shooting your own, yourself in the foot.
That's right. And it's going to be really interesting to see what he's going to bring to the table when he joins the Knights roster. Kid hasn't played in a long time. The last games that he played in Sweden. So it's going to be hard.
I think he's been working out, I believe, with a university team or one of those.
He's been skating with them
with
in line
London.
rushes
Okay,
at practice
yeah.
every single day. So,
But I truly believe the OHL suspension, they already knew they were going to reinstate him because everything that they asked him to do, he was doing from the start anyway.
Yeah.
He was doing even before as soon as he got back to London, even before he was drafted, the Hunter brothers had him into a program. They actually, London was doing exactly what they should have been doing. And then Montreal came and they took over. And so from that, you had, him doing really pretty much everything the OHL said in their statement he needed to do. And I think that was kind of a canned statement by the OHL. They were like, we're suspending you, but if you do all this, we'll reinstate you, knowing full well that he was already doing it anyway. With Mayu, now you got to move away from what he did. And I'm not going to call it a mistake because I don't think it was a mistake. It was a lack of better judgment maybe, but it wasn't a mistake. A mistake infers that you really didn't know what you were doing and he knew exactly what he was doing. And look at the kid as his skill. You got to look at his skills and you got to look at his talent. You got to move away from the rest of it. He's supposed to have the talent. He's supposed to have the skill that he could be a top 4 defenseman in the NHL. Most draft boards had him anywhere as high as 15 and as low as 27, I'm going to say, before the incident. And after the incident, they had him right off the board. I'm not going to talk about the other shit anymore because it's already been talked to death. So I'm just going to go on about this guy's skill and what this guy could bring the Canadiens. If he comes back the same way he did when he left, you're going to get a pretty good puck moving, heavy hitting, good skating defenseman who has a IQ both in the offense and the defensive zone. And if that's the case, it's the type of hockey player that I think type of defenseman I think Jeff Gorton's going to want on his blue line. I think you're going to see a change from the stay-at-home defenseman type, Mark Bergevin type defenseman, and move into the good puck moving two-way defenseman that I think Gorton's got with speed and puck skills.
Who would you say that he would compare it to?
Logan Mailloux?
Yeah. If you're talking about kind of a heavy hitting, smooth skating, off, two-way defenseman.
On the Canadiens?
No, it's just in
anyone?
general.
Maybe a Letang.
Yeah, maybe.
Not as highly as skilled, but maybe.
I kind of look at him. I kind of look at him as kind of like a Jacob Trouba.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think he's a better skater than Jacob Trouba is.
But he's that style.
Yeah. I look at Caden Gooley as more of a. Well, I guess Trouba got some offense to him too, though. So I guess I can't take that away from him. Dare I say a Tony DeAngelo? If you just look at skill, like Tony's an asshole.
Yeah, but he's not a physical player.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
He only yells obscenities from behind referees.
At his own goalie. Or punches him. Yeah. But
back to Mayu and the London Knights. I mean, London was setting itself up to give this kid more of an opening or ice time. They knew he was going to come back. They traded, what's the kid's name? Ben Roger. He was the Ottawa draft pick from last year. He was their top line right-handed defenseman. They traded him to Kingston, making space for Mayu's return. So he fits into the Hunter brothers' plans on the ice. They watch him every practice. They know what he's capable of. So I think he's going to have every opportunity to prove himself on the ice. If he does that and he follows whatever plan that was laid out for him, I would assume that by the time summer rolls around, he will be signed. There will be a massive uproar.
Of course there will be.
There's going to be problems. But this is the legacy that was left behind by the last management team. And the current one, I don't think is going to offload this prospect just yet. They might trade him down the road, but
skill wise, he's a good pick. I'm sorry to say, like, I people don't want to hear that because they only think of the one thing, but skill wise, it was a steal at 31.
And he was
Really?
he would have got picked on day 2. We already know this. He would have been picked in the
Yeah.
somebody would have taken him in the second round.
I don't think Montreal should. Let me get this off. I don't think they should have drafted him.
no.
No,
I
they shouldn't
don't.
have. They shouldn't
I
have.
don't think he should have been drafted. He asked not to be drafted. Everyone should have not drafted him, and then he could have waited to the next year. Whatever.
I mean-
However, it's done. What's done is done. You got to look by it, and you know nothing's going to change. They're not getting rid of him. They're not whatever, like what Blaine just said. Now we got to look at it, move past. I mean, if people can get over Patrick Kane, people can get over Logan Mayu.
Agreed.
Yeah, and it just seemed like Timmins and company were galaxy braining this, saying, "Hey, here's a kid who should have gone a lot higher, but he slid down here because of whatever. Yeah, let's take the heat so we can get the better prospect," which is fine. But at the same time, I agree they should not have picked him after asking not to be picked. I mean, Nolan Allen was sitting right there. They could have picked him. Chicago took him right after. Another defenseman, albeit left-handed, but these are the options they had. It's not like, it would have just been easier.
It was a 31st pick. It's not like they were picking, 20th or somewhere down the line where,
Yeah.
it was a 31 pick. It's almost a second round pick anyway. You could have went with I forget who the Canadiens' first pick. Riley Kidney, was he the next pick they had, or
That year,
think
I'm pretty
so.
sure.
Let me just
It was.
check.
It was.
I'm pretty sure it was Riley Kidney. They could have went with Riley Kidney at 31. They were picking him anyway next. So,
Yeah, they
No.
could have.
or
They could have.
whoever got picked in the top 5 of the second round, they could have picked any one of those players, and they still would have got a pretty good player.
That's right.
Maybe, who knows?
Still, they could have picked Atu Ratti, a centerman that the Islanders picked up. I mean, they could have had a bunch of other picks, but the pick was made. That's who the Canadiens have. That's what they have to deal with. He is back on the London Knights roster. We're going to see what he can do, and if he can perform on and off the ice the way he's supposed to, and we'll see what happens this summer, which I also think has a lot to do with how Jordan Harris, how that plays out.
Yeah. And it seems that Gorton's going to be down in the States, or he might already be in the States, and he's going to be evaluating some of that college talent that the Canadiens have in their system.
There's quite a bit.
There is.
And according to Pierre LeBrun, Harris may not want to come back. However, LeBrun's kind of thing was a little bit flippy floppy, because in one sentence he's saying he may not want to come back. He might want to go to the home team, Boston. He doesn't have to resign in the summer. However, with the new management and the new everything else, he may have changed his mind to. So it was kind of a.
Yeah, that's been
I don't want to say a clickbait Twitter post, but it was kind of a. Is
But
this
that-
really happening?
That's been the trope that's been repeated ad nauseum now. Will he sign with his hometown Bruins? Will he stay with the Canadiens?
I just don't want to see. I just don't want to see what happened with like Adam Fox. Adam Fox. Everybody knew he was going to go to the Rangers,
Yeah.
and it was just like a song and dance, song and dance, song and dance, song and dance. Everything was in the media. All of a sudden, he shows up from in the Rangers and lights it up, wins a Norris Trophy, and it was the same thing as Jimmy Vesey, right?
Yeah, but Jimmy Vesey didn't really go anywhere.
All right, and so
It doesn't really. The thing is I don't like the way the college players get to pick and choose after so many years where they can go. Like,
Yeah.
why bother drafting them? Why bother drafting if you're going to sit there and go, well, I don't like who I got drafted by, so I'm just going to play out my college hockey, and then I'm just going to choose who I want to go to later.
Yeah.
If
Imagine
that's
if-
the case,
imagine
that's
if
the
Cale
case, they
Makar
might
did
as well
that.
just play it out. Yeah.
yeah. Imagine if Cale Makar did that. Like Adam Fox, very good defenseman. But my ankles are still sore watching that highlight from Makar the other night against Chicago. So
Yeah.
just imagine if he would have done that, or any of these other top level college kids.
Now,
And that
have
wasn't
done that
against
over the
just
last couple
anybody.
years.
That
Yeah, it was
wasn't just
Marc-Andre
against
Fleury.
anybody. That was against Kirby Doc.
Kirby Doc and then Andre Fleury for the
Yeah.
goal. But I mean, you think about it. If Owen Power, I truly believe if Owen Power does this with Buffalo, you're going to see the NHL and the NHLPA, or at least the NHL, look at this and go, we got to change this university thing, because really, what is if once they know they can have their pick of who they want to play with, why would they care who they got drafted by?
That's right.
It'd be, they just say, well, I'll just play, because what is it, 3 years? As long
Yeah,
as they as long as they don't sign for 4 years, they're like, all right, I'm free to go to whoever I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but at the
You
same
know.
time, no matter who you sign with, you're signing an entry-level deal.
Yeah, but at least you're signing with the team you want to be with.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're picking and choosing for your opportunity. And
Yeah,
in
if
Jordan
I-
Harris's case,
Yeah.
his goal, if his goal is to step right into the NHL, if Northeastern loses out and doesn't make the final, the Frozen Four, the Canadiens can sign him and let him burn an entire year and let him play in the NHL. That's something that the Bruins can't do, because the
Bruins-
Canadiens own his rights.
LeBron did bring up the fact that the Bruins don't really have a spot for him either.
No, they don't.
I mean, they can make room for him. It wouldn't be hard, but they don't really have a spot for him, or if they do, it'll be like a bottom.
Yeah.
A
If
bottom.
the
pairing
Canadians
defenseman,
do
but-
lose him, though, this is a kid that you can't lose for nothing. Like you've got to get a good draft pick back. You've got to get a good prospect back, whatever it is. You need to have someone that's as NHL ready as the player you're giving up.
And I mean, and money can't be motivation for him, because he's going to get the same no matter where he goes.
Yeah.
Right.
So more than likely it's about situation for him. And according to his coach down in Northeastern, he is a loyal kid, and his goal is to finish out the year, win a national title, and sign with the Canadiens. So until I hear otherwise, that's my expectation. I still think Gorton has to go down and sell the Habs, but I would expect him to sign with Montreal simply because they have the better opportunities for him to play now.
He'll play next year. He'll play this year.
He could.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
All right. Moving on from that, the last game. Oh, no, you had a piece of news there, Matt.
Yeah. So the Hamilton Bulldogs announced today that they acquired Hamilton-born defenseman Arbor Jacki from the Kitchener Rangers. And in return, the Rangers received a forward, 2 second-round draft picks, 2022 and 2025, 2 third-rounders in 2023 and 2024, and a conditional 4th in 2023. This is quite a haul for a guy that literally walked into the Kitchener Rangers and, put up 3 points in 59 games. Sophomore season, put up 17 points in 51. Then all of a sudden he bursts on the scene as this undrafted player. Right now gets drafted or gets picked up by the Canadiens organization after a very good camp. And now he's at 17 points in 18 games with a very good fight that's all over hockey fights right now. And it was he was suspended for. And this is kind of a kid that kind of came out of nowhere. And now he's kind of one of the prospects to watch in the Canadiens organization. So good on him. He's worked very hard for this opportunity. Now he goes back home, plays for the Bulldogs, and he's going to be playing with Canadiens prospect Jan Mysak, and they're going to be looking for a run for the OHL championship.
Matt, you never mentioned Niver Mutter.
I just said a forward.
Forward
Yeah,
is the infamous,
yeah,
soon to be drafted
yeah. Navrin Mutter.
Navrin Mutter.
Is he from Newfoundland?
I have no idea.
Mutter.
We
But if it is,
we
his real name's Nathan Mother.
So I've had one of our listeners reach out to me and send me some messages via Twitter and telling me how excited he is to see Arbor Jacki go back to his hometown. He knows him from the days when him and his son would play on the same team. He says he's a great kid. He's a quiet-spoken person. You'd never guess by his play on the ice, but he's a quiet-spoken young man who's comes from a good family, and he just works hard. So it's good to see these underdog stories come out, and it's nice to see good people be rewarded for hard work.
During the preseason, I mentioned, like, right after the preseason, we went into the season, they started a little bit slow, and I mentioned a few times that maybe they shouldn't have given so much opportunity to some of these young guys during the preseason, and especially with a shortened schedule, and really tried to pair their NHL roster up. He was one of the guys that I didn't really care that they gave him a little bit extra playing time because he earned it. And then
Well, fit right in.
and then all of a sudden he gets a 3-year entry level deal out of it, and from a guy that nobody knew about going into this season. And I had to watch a game to figure out how to pronounce his name.
But I mean, it's not hard to see how a 6'4", 225-pound physical defenseman could fit into a pro system.
Oh, 100%.
But it is interesting to see the way how offensively he turned his game around. From, like you said, he started with 3 points to 17. He was more of a stay-at-home defenseman. And then also with Kitchener this year, he became one of their top scoring defensemen.
Yep.
So
almost just a late bloomer. Yeah. He's a late bloomer.
It's kind of like Sheldon Surrey when he came to Montreal from New Jersey.
Sort of. I don't think we're going to be seeing a big power play bomb.
No, but I just meant the way his offense, he went from a defensive defenseman to an offensive defenseman.
I think we're going to see this guy in the AHL next year turn some heads.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
100%.
And I want to see how his offensive game translates to the pros.
Yeah.
He's got the defensive side down. I'm not too concerned with that. He's physical. He's very solid defensively. He's improved on his skating year over year. And I want to see his offensive game as well. If he can get some of that to translate to the pros, then maybe we have an NHLer on our hands.
He could be next year's Schooneman.
Yeah, you know what? Schooneman hasn't looked bad.
Yeah. I'm impressed with Schooneman. He could stay on the Canadiens all year for all I care. I think he's
he just plays simple hockey.
Plays the game. You don't even know he's out there. You don't even hear his name. Right?
Kind of a Josh Georges type.
Yep. I really like Schooneman. I think he's a perfect complement for that team.
Start trading bodies out and let him stay.
Wow.
Yeah, I think 100%. I think Sherratt's out, Kulak's out. I would keep Schooneman for the rest of the year. He may as well. And at this point, you don't have very many options anyway.
I think you're going to see a very different defensive core next year with the Montreal.
Yes, and I think it'll be a more mobile one.
I don't know if you're going to see anyone that's on the defensive team this year with the team next year.
I think Romanov will still be there.
Well, okay. Except Romanov. I don't know you're going to see.
I think
I don't even know if Edmondson will be there.
I think he will be. I think the what if right now is going to be Petrie. Just based on his play and just kind of based on some of the comments he's made and everything. I just think that this was a home run swing for Bergevin that looked very, very good. The Canadiens signed him to a very good valued contract for what he was bringing to the ice. And it really hasn't worked out for him since he signed that contract.
Personally, I think he's hurt. I think he's been playing hurt all year. I think so too. I think his hand's still messed up.
Yeah.
But
I think some sort of injury is definitely.
I think he'll be back. Just because of all that.
Yeah. But we also haven't seen him with Edmondson, who really Edmondson really allowed him to play this more offensive style instead of having to do it at both ends of the ice so often.
Absolutely. Excuse me.
Oh, COVID cough. Fuck my life.
Sorry about that. All right.
Now we gotta friggin' isolate for 7 days.
Yeah.
Thanks, Blaine.
No alarm and coming to get me here.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on from that, we'll talk about the Paquette Hit.
So long ago. That was like 3 years ago.
Yeah, well, that was the last game they played, and we haven't had a show. So
yeah.
Before we get into the suspension, did you guys think that was a dirty hit, Matt?
Yes.
Treg?
Yes. Well more than 50% of the contact was to the head, like about 80%.
Yeah, I think that had he lowered his shoulder a little bit more and followed through with the hit into Paquette's shoulder, we would not be talking about a dirty hit.
No. And you got to
the
think
league,
there
the
was
league
not
agrees that it was
but
the
there-
head first.
and there wasn't even a call on the play.
Well, no.
Generally, you
Well-
don't see it. Generally, you don't see a 3-game suspension when there wasn't a call on the play.
True.
The 3-game suspension kind of surprised me based on the fact that there wasn't a call on the play. I was expecting 1.
But he was suspended in the playoffs last year
Yes.
for a similar hit.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be seeing 3 games. We probably would have seen a fine.
More than likely. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to find it here, but I kind of made a tweet that I put out about it because I just didn't understand. So this is the tweet. I put, okay, so if player safety deems a hit serious enough for a hearing, this was before the suspension was handed out. The refs in the game didn't call a penalty. Shouldn't the refs involved have some type of hearing as well? Right? As to why they didn't call this a penalty or why they missed it.
I
NHL
don't
refs
see why not.
they have NHL refs have no accountability, and that's why they are trash, is what I said.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's just because of the Montreal game. You watch any game across the league, and the refereeing in the NHL is so terrible and so I don't even know how to describe it. There may be 2 referees where I watch and I enjoy watching them because they call the game from start to finish exactly the way they did at the start, the way they do at the end. Like either they let everything go, which is not a bad thing, right? As long as it goes both ways, or except for the obvious calls, or they call everything.
Yeah.
Right. And I find the referees nowadays it's almost like they have a game plan going into the game of which team they're gonna. It's almost like, I don't want to be a conspiracy tinfoil hat wearing thing, but it's almost like the refs are geared to help certain teams and not help other
You could
teams.
definitely say that about the Tampa game.
Yeah.
Right.
I would disagree with you, except for the fact that back in 2011, the head of officiating, Colin Campbell, had emails going around telling the referees to call games a certain way, especially the games where his son was playing. So I can't say you're wrong because it's happened.
It's just the way I see it. And I'm not, like, again, I'm not just talking about Montreal. There's been other games I've watched where I'm looking at the referee going, why is this guy getting called for being bigger than this guy? Right? That was the penalty. He was just bigger than the other guy.
Yeah.
And then this guy's getting away with whacking this guy 6 times in the friggin' legs and not getting a penalty whatsoever.
Yeah.
The Montreal Tampa game was another ridiculously called game. I mean, I know we're getting away from the hit and getting more into refereeing, but first of all, how is the Gallagher goal even called a no goal? That's
because it's Gallagher.
But
It's
that shouldn't be. It shouldn't matter who it is. It should
But that's
not
in the rule
matter.
book. It's in the rule book. It's the Gallagher rule 69.69.
It doesn't matter. I mean, and then when a Caulfield goes in on a breakaway and he's just getting hacked the whole way into the breakaway.
No,
not a
that was
single
fine.
call.
That was fine.
And
Absolutely
I don't,
fine.
you guys know me. I don't normally argue about refs. I don't normally sit there and try to, but things are getting ridiculous. And the referee, you can't even say anything after the game about it. You're not allowed. You get fined if you say the refereeing was poor. We need to do a better job. Fine. Right. And I think coaches and teams should be taking more fines. It has to be. I mean, if Gary Bettman's going to come out in the playoffs and say they have the best officiating in the entire world, right? Something's up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll look
yeah,
at
exactly.
we'll look at Chris Lee. Right.
No,
Chris
I don't want it.
Lee famously didn't make that call against when the Canadiens were playing Vegas. There's pictures all over it of Suzuki getting hit in the face. I think it was by McNabb.
Yeah.
And Lee's just sitting there, just chilling. And he's actually been in the American Hockey League. His second game of the year was just the other day, and then when he officiated the Winter Classic.
But is that because of a bad call in the NHL, or
Well, there was
are they
was.
holding him accountable? Like, are they saying?
I think for that it was just based on
No,
the fact
he
that
was
there
hurt.
was he?
Yeah, he was doing a rehab stint. He had a knee injury.
From going down on all the Knights players after they gave him a couple wins during that series.
Suzuki got hit in the head and snow hit his knee, and he was like, "Ah, my knee."
But
Wow.
but in general, overall, I can't disagree with Treg. I do find that the officiating in the last few years has started to go downhill in a hurry. And then you look at the NFL and how they manage their officials. If an official screws up, they're held accountable publicly. Like, they have to make an apology, and they have to go through the whole thing. They have to go through courses again. Then they come back to officiate a game after a certain amount of time and training is completed. And then if they screw up a second time, they're fired. So the accountability that the NFL has needs to be brought into the NHL. Granted, hockey's a much faster game, and you will miss certain plays.
And that's fine.
It happens.
Like it happens. And again, I'm not against a referee putting his whistle away and not calling anything. It's whether or not you're calling it fair and square. It's whether or not you're, and I'm not saying, again, I mean, we get mostly Montreal listeners anyway, so it's not going to matter, but non-Montreal listeners, if they're listening, it's not just Montreal. This is going around. This is all over the league. And if it's not fixed, at least let the players or the coaches say something. At least let them vent their frustrations after the game and say, hey, there's a way to do it. Don't say, hey, those fucking refs are fucking shit, blah, blah, blah. But then say, hey,
That's our job.
Yeah.
I feel the officiating, was a bit biased. I don't know why, but I don't understand why we got called for these penalties and they didn't called for this. Or why can't you have something like a major hit like the Paquette thing? Why they stop the play to see if the player's all right? Why can't they go over and take a review of the play and go, oh man, that was a hit to the head. That is even if they did miss it.
Yeah. But how many times, but we talk about the speed of the game, but how many times have they made a review on a goal, in a goaltender interference, something like that, where it's blatantly obvious? And it happened this year when Gallagher stuck his badonkadonk out, and the goal was disallowed. And
Again, it's the Gallagher rule.
Absolutely, it shouldn't be that way, but we all know that's how it is.
There's 4 people on the ice that can call a penalty, because linesmen can call penalties, especially if they think it could be a major.
Yeah.
Nobody's seen that. Nobody, all 4 of them looked at, because linesmen don't usually call anything if they don't see the referees do anything. They just go, all right, they're not calling it. We're not saying anything. And they work as a team. So it's not like they don't want to overshadow or overplay anyone else. But you can't tell me the 4 of them looked at that play and thought, oh, that's pretty fine. That's a pretty good hit. Good job.
Well, we're also leaving out the fact that there's a 5th official who's up in the stands. Why can't he be involved in officiating a game? He's perched up high. He sees plays as they come. You have a different vantage point. So something blatant like that, I mean, as soon as the play is dead, he can just hit the buzzer, and then they go to the press box or to the penalty box, and they can talk to him on the headset, and he can say, hey, you guys missed something. This, and this, and then they can make the call.
Yeah.
And then you have Toronto headquarters where they're going to be non-biased and not call any goals back or calls. They could even review the play and go, oh, wait a minute, that's a bad fucking hit.
Are you telling me that people who grew up in and around Toronto have some kind of a bias to a specific hockey team?
I'm not saying that at all. You are putting words in my mouth. It's not what I said. It's what I implied, but that's not what I said.
I just don't see it. It's impossible.
I don't know. I just think when you look at the Paquette hit And when everyone else looks at it, they're like, well, that's a 3-game suspension. I didn't think he was going to get anything personally. They give, of course, then again, player safety isn't really well known for being,
about player safety.
Yeah, really. But I mean, sometimes you'll see a hit and you're like, holy God, that's like a 12-game suspension. He gets like the biggest fine we can give is $500,000. It's $5,000.
Yeah.
And then you look at another hit and you're like, oh, that didn't look too bad. This guy's suspended for 72 games and won't, has to, move to Alberta for a year.
Whoa. Let's not be too harsh.
Hey, I'm just saying, Southern Alberta, not Northern.
72 games is enough.
But like they're not consistent at all with how they call things. But anyway, it's nothing we can do about it. Obviously, it's nothing that coaches and teams can do about it, but I'm surprised that more owners haven't stepped in and said something. Or maybe they have. It only takes 6 owners to make a decision anyway. So
yeah. And 5 of them are Jeremy Jacobs. But to take a step back from officiating, I think we need to have a beer and relax. Namely, Puck Off Lagered Ale beer would be an excellent choice. Our sponsors at Boxing Rock would be happy for you to partake in that and relax a little bit. If you got up at the break of dawn and spent all day drinking ring coffee while cheering your team under your hockey blanket, you and your dedicated ways deserve a super refreshing, perfectly normal beer to share with your friends. Puck Off Lagered Ale is brewed with hockey and all its characters in mind. Cheers to a great puck off, and cheers to you, hockey parents, inspiring coaches, the good referees, and of course, the ever loyal fans. That is Boxing Rock Brewing Company's Puck Off Lagered Ale. For our listeners who live in Nova Scotia and are 19 years of age and older, be sure to tag us in any one of the social media platforms that we are on. We're on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I don't know. Are we on Discord? I can't remember.
OnlyFans.
Are we?
Yeah, we're definitely on OnlyFans. Matt Smith's there.
I have no idea if we're on Discord.
But tag Habs Unfiltered on any one of those platforms and tell us why you like our show, and you could win your very own 12 box of Puck Off Lagered Ale cans. We will send you the receipt so that you can pick up your own at your local NSLC.
What if I don't like the show?
Then you don't get anything. Screw you.
I don't think that's fair.
Too bad.
I'm offended. I have a right not to like something, but still get prizes.
I'm a Gen X and I really don't give a shit. I grew up being told, I'll give you something to cry about. So
if you don't stop that crying, I'll give you something to cry about.
And it stopped. Do you remember those thick leather belts and metal spoons? I do.
I had the wooden spoon.
Oh no, the wooden ones would just break every time they hit me with it. So they went to the metal.
Remember riding a bike without a helmet?
That explains so much.
Going over jumps. Not remembering going over the jump. I
What
did.
jump? What jump? Anyway, moving on. We'll talk now about the newest Montreal Canadiens hiring, the new Vice President of Hockey Communications, Chantal Machabé. So, Matt, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that great signing. She brings 3 decades of experience as a sports journalist, very well liked by her colleagues. She knows everybody. Always a very positive face. Anytime I've interacted with her on Twitter or anything like that, she's been very kind, and I welcome her to the Canadiens organization. I think she's going to do an excellent job.
Greg?
I think it's great for her. Apparently, she's not going to have the same job as Paul Wilson.
Not the exact one, no.
According to what she says in the journal. But I think it's a step in the right direction on getting women in more powerful positions in the NHL. Well, not powerful, but more
Front office
higher
positions.
office positions in there. She's going to report to Jeff Molson and France. Is it France? Is that how you
France
pronounce it?
Bélanger, yeah.
France Bélanger. Which tells me that France Bélanger has a bigger say in the Montreal organization than I thought she was going to have.
She is the president.
Yes, but I thought she was more going to be the Eventco. I thought she was going to be away from the hockey stuff and do the other, but apparently she's not.
Well, she's the president of Groupe CH, which is both hockey and Eventco. So she's
Right.
essentially so Molson's the president of hockey. So she is his boss on the organigram.
Interesting.
Even though he's the owner,
boss.
you can
I was
tell.
gonna say he hired
Yeah.
his own boss.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great step. I think she's going to be, and she's a former journalist. So she's going to come out, and I think she's going to change a lot of things. I mean, maybe we'll see more transparency. Maybe we'll see more, whatever you want to call it. I mean, she does say, I don't want us to be the enemies anymore. It did not make sense. It will change. It's important for me, but it's important for the Canadiens. It's important for Jeff Molson and France Margaret Bélanger. So
Yeah. And I think
that's a big step.
I think they picked the absolute right person.
Yes.
You go on to social media, and normally it's a very polarizing one or the other. There's always two sides, but then you go on to Twitter or Instagram or wherever, and I think there wasn't any bad comments. Everybody was, this is a great hire. We love this, because she's so well respected. She's been in the business for so long. And I've had the opportunity to speak to this person many times over the years, and she is polite. She is kind. She is giving. She's very, very intelligent. I think she's going to do an amazing job. And more importantly, when she took the position, she mentioned on LDS that her goal is to make things more transparent. She's going to be going on air on TSN, RDS, wherever, and she is going to explain the Canadiens' position. So she'll be more available. The Canadiens' position will be heard more, and players will be more available. So this is going to give fans an opportunity to learn more about certain players. This could turn some of these players into some fan favorites, because you get to invest yourself in their lives. You get to learn about them as people, not just as hockey players.
Yeah.
And I think that's really going to sell the hockey aspect of it, especially in a very down year as we're having now.
She was actually asked about the job on November 30th. So she really took her time to make sure that I'm just going through the Journal article. I read it yesterday, and she just wanted to make sure that it was going to be the right position for her, and it was the right time for her to move on from RDS and go from there. Because I mean, she was with RDS for what, 20 some odd years since
32. She from the
32
first
years.
day they
30,
started.
the
she was
first day
there.
it started, yeah. So, you know, and she jokes that she thought she was going to be there as long as what's his name, Charles Perrault, who's been there, Paul Charon, who's been there. He's 86 and he's still
going
boxing. Yeah. So but yeah, I think we got the right person for that position. And then now we just have 4 others to fill, and let's hope we get the right people for that.
We'll talk about that in another show, but to continue on this one, I think having her and having the ties that she has within the media or community, because she just came from that side of it, I think it'll open up more transparency. Like that she mentioned transparency several times as being a goal of hers. So with Gorton now in charge, with her in position, it seems that transparency is going to be more available to Canadiens fans than it has been in the past. I mean, Gorton in New York wrote that big open letter saying, hey, this is what we're doing. He didn't lay out in detail, I'm going to do this, this, and this, but he let the fans know that this is our plan. This is how we're going to go about it. This is how long we think it's going to take. We want you to be patient with us. We're going to give you some fun stuff, but we're doing this because of X, Y, Z. And I expect to see something like that after the GM is hired.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was the biggest issue with Montreal for the past, even before Bergevin, for the past while, is they weren't transparent enough. No one knew what was going. Everything was hush hush.
It's always been kind of like that, though.
I mean, with trades and that, I can see. With injuries, I'm not too big on. I mean, if it's a major injury like Carey Price, well, what's going on with Carey Price? We should know. You know what I mean? Like, okay. But I mean, if it's an injury where you know the guy's going to be back in a week or two, I'm not going to divulge what the injury is because people could try to hurt him again. And you know what I mean? So,
yeah, like how's the recovery going? Are they on time?
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that.
But see, before it was like, oh, Price, like when he first got hurt, the Canadiens got off to that 10-0 start or whatever it is. And then he first got hurt. It was like, oh, we'll be back in a couple weeks. Oh, no, it's going to be a couple more weeks. Oh, it's going to be about 2 months. Okay, now he's not coming back. Well, I think you kind of knew this already. Why are you not, you know what I mean? Like, why is it taking so long to figure this out?
I mean, if they would just said, hey, we expect 2 weeks, but we're going to reassess after the swelling's down or whatever, we'll give you an update then. I don't think anyone would have really batted an eye.
No. But it was like 2 weeks. He's back in 2 weeks. Don't worry about it.
Until he wasn't.
2 weeks go by. Oh, okay. No, it's going to be a little longer. 2 more weeks.
All right. Well, I think that does it for this episode. We're going to have quite a bit in our next one. We've got all kinds of stuff planned for the next few episodes. We're going to have some guests. We're going to get back into the swing of things now that it's the new year and we're all starting to go back to work. Blech, yuck. So, any final thoughts, Treg?
Keep an eye on Twitter. I think there's a lot of things that's going to come down in the next 2 weeks. I think there's going to be a lot of things moving in Montreal in the next 2 weeks.
Matt?
Just looking forward to this GM search, see who the Canadiens are going to bring in, start filling some of these positions, give us something else to talk about, look forward to know what direction this team's going to go into. And see if anyone maybe surfaces that we've never even talked about.
I think there will be some surprises coming our way. And for myself, I want to just remind or to actually announce to our listeners, we now have an active website, www.habsunfiltered.net. And on that website, you'll find all of our sponsors, the promo codes, your percentages off. You'll find links to where you can listen to our show. And there may even be some blog posts. Matt might get back into writing again. He has that opportunity now. So keep an eye out for that. There might be some surprises in there, maybe a giveaway or two, like free beer from Boxing Rock. And I want to thank everyone for listening. You guys have been very patient with us for this week off. We appreciate that. And we're going to try our best to give you more content and just have fun with it. So thank you for listening. And remember, if you were talking about it, so are we.